It's a guy, a car, and a podcast.
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 Buckle up.
Buckle up.
Buckle up.
Buckle up, y'all.
This is I think I just kind of start recording right away, and then just in the edit I can find a good spot to like start the conversation. And it's not like a show, it's not like, I don't know, Leno or something where there's not like segments or bits or anything. It's literally just a conversation. I just like talking to my friends, so I started a podcast.
It's cool.
It's my life. But on that point, I ask like a lot of people to do the podcast, and a good number of them either ghost me or just say, no, I'm good. So
Really?
it's always kind of fun when I get to this point. I'm like, oh, wow, we did it. Someone's like on my podcast. I'm legitimate. Hooray for me.
Hey, well, I don't know why. I mean, I guess some people don't like to be on. Hold on, let me move this crap out of here. I guess some people don't like to be on camera. I don't know.
I guess the irony being like the podcast has only become video in like the last, I guess, year. But still, like, I mean, there's an option for audio. You don't have to be on. We didn't have to do Zoom. We could have just done a phone call. I think people like, and this might be a weird place to start the conversation, but since, today is November 8th, which means we just found out, arguably, I mean, they still got to do some counting and stuff, but who the next president is going to be, which means everybody's feeling all sorts of ways about that. I had a point. What did you just say that made me bring that up? What were we just saying? Oh, about people not wanting to be on podcasts.
Yes.
I don't know if it was the whole last 4 years or if it just became like progressively evident and worse, but I feel like people just don't want to speak what's on their mind anymore because they're afraid that the whole world's going to yell at them about something.
I know. I agree. Yeah. Because like social media now, everything's so accessible. You know, your stuff's out there and people are afraid to say how they really feel, which myself included. It is scary. It is scary.
I mean, in that I'm not sure you consider yourself a public figure anymore. Where does your fear come from for saying things?
I just don't want to like give the wrong impression of like what I'm trying to say. Sometimes I have a hard time getting across what I'm actually feeling. So I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings by trying to say how I feel.
Does that come from a recognized failure on your part? Like, do you have like triggering memories of having upset somebody or just being misunderstood, and that causes you to sort of lean back now and be like, you know what, I'm just going to stay quiet versus...
Well, I guess not really. I just have a hard time in general saying proving my point.
Oh, this is where you and I might actually be a lot more alike than I originally assumed. And your sister and I, P.S. anybody that I feel like sometimes people tune into the podcast because of the name of who's the episode is that week. And I feel like, especially the ones that don't know me, they're like, how do you know this person? And so I feel like I kind of got to get that out of the way up front, like how this even happened. So I've been dating your sister for like 5 months, and it's wonderful and glorious. Part of what she and I talk about is, and I've known this about myself, but it's always interesting to see it hit a different person, is that I'm so comfortable with and basically convinced of my own opinions that I kind of do feel like I have to sell other people on them. Like I don't know if it's be right, because the truth is I feel very right. So maybe it's just I want the validation of them agreeing that I'm right about it, which is me changing their mind. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah. I'm very similar in that sense. It's not that I want to be right, but I want to hear that at least like you're listening and you are understanding that my point is valid. You don't have to agree with me, but at least, you know what I mean?
That's so interesting because I've actually posed it to your sister kind of exactly like that. Like, I don't need to change your mind, but if you can find a way to just show me that my thinking, that my perspective on this, like, just isn't crazy. Like, they tell me that you're like, hey, I get the way you presented that. Like, yeah, it worked. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I totally get it. Like, that would do it. But I don't know if it's the lawyer in her. I haven't quite figured out what it is, and I wouldn't say that we fight. I just think our conversations become very long because both parties are kind of subtly and sometimes not so subtly trying to like push the other party into their point of view. She'd probably disagree with that. She'd be like, I'm just talking to you. I'm just telling you what I think. And I'm over here just like, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you.
So yeah, I don't even try with my sister because she's right.
And she knows she is, which is the worst part. Maybe that's why I pick at her so much, because I'm jealous of how right she knows she is. And so I kind of want to see if I can kick one of the legs of the tripod out and watch it fall over. Not because I want her to be in pain or anything. And I would totally pick her back up if I did it successfully. But I just want to see if I can, I don't know, have that much influence on somebody that I think is that smart or that well-spoken or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that shit.
So I don't usually prepare too much for these interviews. I don't, but I do think about them. And I do, in your case, outside of you just being, and we talked about this recently, just one of like the funniest, quickest, wittiest people I know. And I have a lot of thoughts and questions about that. You also do occupy this space that I thought might be nice for us to talk about, but more specifically for me to kind of explore, because it's been a while since I've been there. But so I'm 39. I'm about to be 40. I was born in 1981. And my first dream, I don't know why I'm air quoting it, but I guess that's just me thinking that my own dream is silly, was animation. Like, I just used to draw all the time. And so, and I grew up on Disney movies and stuff. So I was just like, I'm going to work for Disney someday. I'm going to animate. And the older that I got, like, I still have it, but it doesn't affect guitar playing as much. Like, I just have this weird, like, tremble in me that just makes it hard to get like a real clean picture for whatever. So that ended up going away when I was like 10 or 11, but there was kind of a transition starting about like maybe 9 to basketball. I was just crazy about basketball, played all the time in like our front yard, hoop and what have you. And I mean, nothing against Chicago or really any other city, but I don't know that there was any like better roster or more fun to watch than the 92 Phoenix Suns. Like Charles Barkley, Danny Ainge, Dan Marley, Kevin Johnson. Like, it was just this, I think half of them were on the dream team, for crying out loud. Like, just this all-star lineup. And so every day I'd sit in front of the television and watch them just trounce whoever they were playing outside of the Bulls most of the time. And then I'd like, literally, they were usually beating them so bad by the third quarter, I'd just turn off the TV and go out into the driveway and just pretend that I was them and just shoot the ball around and just dream about being in the NBA. Short version of the story is, by the time I got to high school, I tried out for the basketball team. And although I'd been working on my game and my dribbling, because I was a short kid, I was like 5'3", like 130 or something, 140. Like, it was just this little scrawny kid. So I was just working on my point guard skills. I didn't work on like calisthenics. I wasn't like in shape. I couldn't run a court for, a 2-hour game or whatever. So I didn't make the team, and that was a big bummer. And then ironically, I tried out for football. Also did not make the team, and that didn't go well. And so basically a couple of years later, I found music and my dreams just kind of shifted. But the sports dreams really did like live in me for a good probably 4 or 5 years. So on your end, I see you as somebody who found that dream and rode it all the way to its proverbial end. And I'm just really interested in sort of how that journey went. So do you remember discovering softball? And do you remember the moment that you realized you were good at it?
Yeah, I was kind of a late bloomer. So softball was just kind of fun, just something that I like to do for, I started when I was about 11 playing travel ball. And the only reason travel is like competitive playing, pretty much, like not recreational.
Oh, meaning
leagues.
You went from city to city, like.
Yes.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So we played in tournaments like all over, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I started playing travel ball when I was about 11. Now that was even it was. I mean, well, that's when a lot of people do start, is that age. And that was only because a friend of mine's mom had told us that, she was going to try out, so I should go try out. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for that, we would have had no idea that travel ball even existed, like, honestly. So, basically, I went and tried out. I made the team, and I was horrible. Absolutely horrible. I mean, you can ask some of my friends. That I was really, really bad. I was a catcher at the time. And
wow.
And I didn't end up liking catching. It was just, I didn't like to block. And have you seen like catchers blocking? They just get freaking drilled with balls, and like the drills that you had to do involved like just sitting in front of a machine, just getting balls just drilled at you. And I was like, I'm not doing this. This is horrible. So I went and played the outfield. I was terrified of the ball. Honestly, to this day, I'm still scared of a ground ball. And I played shortstop in college. I'm still terrified. Still terrified. So, but anyways, so about 14, I almost didn't make the varsity softball team. And hold on. I know this is like really crappy, but hold on. My dog is going to ruin this. I put him in the room. Okay. So.
Oh, is that the dog?
Yeah. So at 14, I made varsity softball. Like barely. It was like, I was like the last person they called to have a conversation with the coaches and tell them that, you made it, but like pretty much you have to be coachable. Like there were some like little, I don't know, tips that they were giving me, like basically like you made it, but hard, like barely, it just seemed to me like that.
Did you get the impression that was just you? Like everybody else was just a shoo-in and they just felt like they needed to humble you for some reason?
It was like, because there was something specific, which I know this happened. I was trying to do like a throw from the outfield. So like you like run up on it, get a ground ball and throw it into the catcher's, into the catcher.
Yeah.
And they were like, run through it. And I wasn't understanding what they were meaning because I was taught something different. So instead of just doing what they said, my little know-it-all head was like, no, this is how you're supposed to do it. So, I mean, they were right. Like I was completely ignoring their coaching and going on just like what I thought was right.
When you say you were taught different, where did you learn these bad habits?
Travel ball. And it wasn't even that it was wrong the way that I was doing it. It was wrong the way that I was doing it. The way that she wanted me to do it was actually correct, but I wasn't understanding it. And instead of just doing what they said to do, I said, no, this is how I was taught. So I just kept doing it, but like subconsciously, like I didn't really understand at the time, but looking back, that's totally what happened. But so they basically said like, you have to be coachable because I wasn't doing what they were saying, which is a big, for somebody that you want in your team. If you're, ignoring what the coach says,
right.
That's a big, like, maybe not. Yeah. So I didn't give them a good impression pretty much. And they said like, you have to be coachable. And it was kind of these like ultimatums, like you made it, but here's what we expect,
I don't know if you've ever seen the movie $1 Million Baby. It's the Clint Eastwood, Hilary Swank movie about a female boxer. In
No,
short, there's a line in it that just really, I feel like applies and it's always just stuck out to me, where he's talking about, there's like this kind of overvoice monologue during like a montage of training and stuff. And you're just watching her just hit the bags and, you know, run and just all this stuff. And paraphrasing, he basically just says, as a coach, you work the boxer and you run the boxer so hard that the boxer is so like emotionally exhausted that all they can hear is your voice in their head. Which it's kind of like scary, but also is so delightfully intense from the perspective of athleticism, that like your coach has to be the only voice that you hear in your head for you to become good at something, I guess. I don't know. Is that in the vein of
completely? Yes.
Yeah.
And that was a huge wake up call for me, because I was decent and I had been on this team for a couple years. I was like a veteran in my eyes. Like I knew what I was doing. I knew everything, right? I was 14 years old. So that was a huge wake up call for me. I'm stepping into a team with seniors who are way more experienced than I am. Mm-hmm. I have to work hard for what I want. So that was like the point where I actually got good. My freshman year of high school softball, I didn't do great, but I got so much better over the course of the year. It was the first time I ever done conditioning with the team, like mental toughness. Like it was the first time I had ever done any of that. So like it made me a lot better. And that's when I started taking softball seriously. And it was like after that season, I bloomed. Like it was just a eye opener for me. Like I need to work hard for what I want.
From the moment when you got on the team, when it was like barely to, I guess, years later when maybe you felt more comfortable in it, like, were you constantly having to argue with your own ego to put yourself in check and to keep yourself listening to the coach? Or was it like a converting moment where you're just like, oh, I get it. And I am now your puppet. Like do with me as you wish.
It actually went the complete opposite way. Like after my freshman year, I had like a huge sense of like self-awareness, where I was like, I'm not good. I am not the best. Like, and it completely went the opposite way. But when I say that as a freshman, I was kind of like, no, I know what I'm doing. It was never like a conscious thought that I'm like, oh man, can you still see me?
No, but this is the most fun I've ever had.
Hold on, wait a second.
I don't know if you watch the show, but I feel like all the episodes in one way or another go like this, where things just come off the rails. And I love it because it means that my show isn't, hyper professional, which is actually what I like about it. I like it's very grounded and the conversations usually get really emotional and blah, blah, blah. So
sorry about that. So where was I?
You were talking about how it was the opposite, how like it sounds like you were just really humbled when you hit the school because you realized that you weren't good. And so you had to get good.
Yes, that's exactly right. And then over the course of my career, I had those struggles where I was constantly doubting myself, constantly thinking that I wasn't good enough, constantly, lacking the confidence that I needed to but at the same time, a lot of those humble feelings were, in my opinion, what I think made me successful in some situations, because there was not one moment where I was like above anybody. I didn't feel like it was a disadvantage and advantage at the same time, because I worked really hard for what I wanted because of the humbleness, because of like the humble attitude that I had or whatever.
Yeah.
And then also I struggled a lot with like bad self-talk.
Which is interesting because for you to carry an attitude that you're not better than anybody and that you still have work to do and whatever, not to fast forward too aggressively, but at some point, you're on a window on ESPN being praised for insane accolades. I know my ego is not strong enough to resist that. I would immediately walk away being like, I'm a badass. But I mean, is that how bad the self-talk was? Was it the self-talk that kept you humble, or did you did you never buy into it? You're like, hey, it's nice to be on your show and it's nice that people think I'm great, but you don't know how bad that game really went. Like, you don't know what I saw.
Yes. That's exactly it. I couldn't just accept success. It was like, wow. I was constantly just making myself feel bad. I could have hit 2 home runs and struck out once in a game, and I'd have been like, that last at bat was awful. Like, I'm not happy with it. You know, I just was never happy with the way I performed ever. There was always something bad that I was focusing on, which is not a good thing for sports, because softball is a failure sport. You're going to fail every game, every practice, every single day, you're going to fail. So it was like, we worked a lot on mental toughness at Georgia, which to me is what really helped me my junior year, because I was a lot more mentally tough than, previous years.
Well, in that, no progress happens without, critique and training. How did they poise that part to you? Was it like, when you're in the game and just focus on your performance, and we'll go into critical headspace with the tape after the game, and we'll like watch what you did and we'll fix it? I mean, is it that simple, or is there some other way that they trained you to stay in the moment and not let your negative self-talk basically cost them the game? Because you're just, how can you perform well when you're talking bad to yourself?
Yeah. I mean, we watched a lot of videos about, like you said, staying in the moment, being present, because if you're actually in the moment and thinking about this moment, there is no anxiety, stress, all that stuff, because that involves thinking about what could happen. Or there's no sad thoughts thinking about what did happen, So if you're actually genuinely in the moment right now, there is no sad or anxious feelings from previous or future things. So
which, I mean, it's one thing to be in the moment at like a scrimmage. It's a whole nother thing to be in the moment when the stadium is full.
Yes. It's extremely difficult to not get down on yourself for screwing up in a previous at bat or whatever. So, but yeah, I struggled a lot with that, because I was just really, really hard on myself. So
you may know this about your sister, but maybe you thought that it used to happen and doesn't still. From the get-go with her, although we talked about a lot of things, we had hours and hours of conversation, she took time to talk about you and to brag about you, and to pull up videos on YouTube of like the championship and all this stuff, and to really brag. And I mean, you're some of your like memorabilia is on her fridge and stuff, and she's got like your cards somewhere in one of her books and stuff, and she shows all. She's very like, she's supportive. She'll be supportive until you die about something that you did, like about an accomplishment of yours. So based on that, I'm vaguely familiar with, I guess, your career at Georgia specifically, but because again, even as a musician, I can't say that I haven't experienced the success that I was looking for, because I wanted to be in a recording studio, and I have been. I wanted to be on stage in front of 1,000 people, and I have been. But it's been hard for me because it didn't stay consistent. It was just these really momentary highs, and then long periods of nothing, no activity, and just feeling like I was wasting my time. It feels to me from a distance looking at your story like it was just kind of a consistent crescendo all the way up to that championship. Like it was just more and more success, more and more success, more and more success, and then the pinnacle. Is that right? Or was it kind of all over the place?
Well, I guess if you zoom out and look at the whole picture, it was like a very consistent up, whatever. But if you zoom into like every year, course of 6 months or whatever, it's just, but it's like this, but going up at the same time.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, I mean, like I said with softball, it's a failure sport. You go through slumps. You go through I went my sophomore year. I went with no hits for the first half of SEC play. I mean, 3 weekends in a row, I had 0 hits in SEC play. It was terrible. It was really bad. So yes, I did, go up, but it's just rocky the whole time. You go up and down constantly.
Well, I guess out of curiosity then, amidst that climb, was there a moment you can think of that from that moment to the championship, everything just really locked in and went? Or was even the championship game I don't know, up until I guess that last homer was really was it, wasn't it? I mean, I guess it was, I'm having trouble remembering even the score of it. You guys won by a hit.
Yes. Yeah, we won.
Right?
We won by, my junior year, we won by a home run.
Okay.
By Courtney Emanuel, one of my teammates. And that sent us to the World Series. So not a championship. We didn't ever make it to the championship, unfortunately, but it was one home run that did send us to the World Series.
And then you did not win the World Series?
Mm-mm.
So maybe if I'm remembering what the announcer was saying when I was watching the clip, maybe what was profound was that Georgia either hadn't at all or hadn't in a very long time even won that championship game. Is that what was so big about it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know what? Because it happened my freshman year, too. You probably watched the freshman year one. Moose hit a walk-off home run to send us to the World Series.
Okay.
But we were playing Florida, who was number 1.
Got it.
And we were 16. So it was it was a huge upset for us to beat Florida to go to the World Series. But yeah. I
mean, I guess the memorabilia and stuff didn't come until you went pro, or was it happening at Georgia? I hear that college sports is very monetized and they sort of celebritize the players so as to draw in more money, basically more fandom or whatever that I imagine goes to the college. So were you getting celebritized in the college? And I guess that's when you were on ESPN and all that stuff was during the college times. I mean, you were going to college at the time. How do you process such a fun feeling when you're also worried about classes and I don't know, whatever your goals might have been as far as the degree goes?
Yeah, it freaking sucked. It sucked. That's the easiest way to put it. It sucked. And it's hard to be motivated to want to do schoolwork and be worried about schoolwork when it seems like softball is my whole world and that is all that I'm concerned about. So it's when I go home, I mean, I can tell you a bunch of times where I watched film of myself. I went and hit by myself and didn't do my homework because I don't care. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I cared about my schoolwork, but it was not nearly as much as my, about sport, softball. I cared about my swing much more than my math homework.
Was that purely feeding your ego, or by that time had you already made the decision to go pro and you were just?
No, I hadn't. I didn't know I was going to play in the pros until April or May of my senior year. So we had on one hand as many that many games left till the end of the season when I found out that I was drafted, I'm going pro. Oh, wow. So yeah, my whole college career, whatever, I would say I worked really hard. One, because I am a perfectionist and I don't settle for, doing crappy.
Right.
But on the other hand, there was lots of expectations for me. When I'm up to bat and bases are loaded, everybody's expecting something. They're expecting me to pull through. They're expecting me to hit a home run, whatever. And it was like those expectations that like I wanted to do well for myself, but I also was concerned about, those situations I need to perform.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it was motivation, but it was also, that's where a lot of the negative self-talk came from. Cause I was like, you're not good enough. Like these people need, like they are expecting so much from you. You have to pull through. And then when you say that, I have to do something. Now you're tense. You're anxious. Like all those bad feelings come into play.
Did that start in softball, or have you just always had I'm not good enough feeling about everything?
No, I kind of always have that I'm not good enough feeling. I guess I struggle with really knowing myself, like my worth. Yeah.
So I'm the middle of 5 kids, and so I've kind of observed older siblings, younger siblings, the oldest, the baby of the family, and just sort of the psychology of all of that. And my observations of the baby of the family, which you would be, are that they tend to appear the most free. Like they just feel like they can say anything, think anything, do anything, which is equal parts good and bad. But it doesn't insinuate that there's an internal struggle. Like they just seem to, in a lot of cases, have the biggest ego in the family and just sort of run the roost. So, like, do you find that even true for yourself? And was the negative talk just something you dealt with and nobody else saw, or did you bring people into it? Did you ask for like advice about, hey, when people are like congratulating you on a great game and you're just like, that game sucked, what are you talking about? And you're just walking them through all the little things that you saw. Like, did people just brush off your negative talk and they're like, you'll be fine? Or did you get help with it?
I got help with it from my coaches. Everybody knew on my team that I was really, really hard on myself. Everybody knew that I was very humble, but very hard on myself. And I think that in some instances, I probably did talk negative too much. And my teammates were like, shut up, you're really good. Why are you, like, you're worrying about like stuff that I wish I could do, things like that. And I worried about way too much, but I'm sure some of my teammates got irritated with me being so hard on myself. Cause in their eyes, they feel like, I'm like I've had people tell me straight up before, like, I wish I could do what you do. Why are you so worried about one at bat? And I never got those settled feelings when I played. Now looking back after I'm done playing, I am able to look at my career and be like, wow, that was really awesome. Like I really did. Like I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of the way that I played. But during, I was constantly not happy with what I was doing. Constantly. But I did get a lot of help from my coaches with mental toughness because they knew. Everybody knew that I was very, very hard on myself. Probably more than most.
I wonder if you're a really unique perspective to speak on this part then, because I also have a ton of negative thought. And my observation of my own performance as far as an artist or in athletics or in music now is I can't see me being as good as I am at playing guitar without the negative thought. I think it's the hypercriticalness that causes me to reach higher and push harder and longer than most people, because I'm not as good as I am because I'm just a prodigy. I'm as good as I am because I sit in my room like a nerd for 4 hours a day or whatever, and I just do the thing until I'm good at it. Do you sort of buy into or welcome the negative thought because on some level you think it's making you better?
I think it has made me better. I don't know if I'm consciously welcoming it. It might just be, subconscious that I'm like, this is why I've been successful. Just let it happen. I don't know. But I can attribute a lot of my success to, like you said, I don't think I would have been where I was without that. Even now, I mean, shoot, I'm trying to teach myself how to code. I'm trying to better my career. And I'm constantly thinking like, I don't know enough. Nobody's going to hire me. Like, nobody's going to want me. I'm constantly like, I have to be better. Like, I'll sit here all day, like you said, like a nerd, coding, watching videos, constantly worried. I just have a feeling like I'm at the company that I work at right now. I'm like getting to work with the programmers and stuff like that, work on a team that I would love to work on. Mm-hmm. But I'm constantly thinking like, these people are so much better than me. Like, they're never going to want me. Like, they're so much smarter than me. I'm never going to make it. Those are constantly flooding my head. Like, they're flooding my mind always. So it's like, even now, still same crap, still same stuff. But at the same time, like you said, I think that's what makes me better, because I put in all the effort to be where those people are at. I see them as like, that's where I want to be.
Well, in the vein of that, how do you handle failure if the path to success is fraught with negative talk? How does failure hit that?
It's a good question. I guess in my softball career, I had a very hard time with failure, but I kind of prep myself for it, if that makes sense. I just expected it. Because I was so hard on myself, I'm like, well, like, I can't explain what I'm trying to say. It's hard to.
Is that a version of welcoming it? To expect it is to just be like, well, we failed. Come on in. All right. Doors open, negative voices. Time to beat me up.
I guess. But then at the same time, like, I'm trying to think like how I would react. Because then at the same time, I'm like, I'm mad that like I was expecting myself to do well. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, I know that maybe it's, there's a possibility that it's not going to go the way that I wanted it. But I do harp, like I tend to sulk in those I'm not good enough feelings for probably too long, because I'm so much of a perfectionist and I want it so bad. When failure comes, I'm like I'm like the world is crashing around me.
It reaffirms all the negative voices, which is almost the worst part. When the negative voices, whether or not they are right, in this instance, they were right. Everything they said about me actually happened, and now you get to sort of just bathe in that. And I'm curious from your perspective, because with me, although it seems from the outside unhealthy to really just sit in that negative talk, I think from time to time, like this little kernel of sort of useful truth pops out of that, and it ends up being something that I can kind of use both with myself and with other people with I don't know what to call it, because I'm not like a counselor or anything, but I feel like I really talk to people a lot and I engage in their problems and things like that. And so sitting in my own negative talk has given me enough like perspectives, I guess, of the darkness and depression, all that stuff, that it's given me these tools that have really become helpful. Do you find any usefulness coming out of the negative talk, or is it just all just putting you down for no productive reason?
That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like I haven't had the chance to really like work with anybody. Like you said, like you get to talk to a lot of people and you get to relate. I'm sure that if I ever came across somebody that had the same kind of feelings as me, like I might be able to help. But I honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. It's a tough one.
Wow. Something to think about. Which also intrigues me about you. And I don't know, I sometimes these things go all over the place, but we were talking the other day about my observations of you over the last few months and how I think you should like go into entertainment. I think you've got some of it's even hard to like verbalize like what it is that I'm seeing. I feel like you have a very observational nature, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people just take the world as it is portrayed to them. And not that you've maybe said anything to specifically indicate this, but I just get a sense from you like you're not satisfied with the world as offered to you. Like you're always picking it apart and analyzing it and stuff like that, which is a very comedian, actor, entertainer thing to do. But then on top of that, although you don't think that you talk a lot or that you offer a lot of your own thoughts and stuff, when you do in a very Silent Bob way, it tends to be like, it just hits really hard and it's really on point and it's really well crafted and stuff like that. So it makes me think that you definitely like belong in this medium. What were we talking about? Maybe bring that up. Maybe just in the vein of you saying that you don't really connect with a lot of people in that way, or you don't talk to people in that way. I guess it leads me to wonder why, because I look at you and I get the impression like you are a well-received person and have always been. Like nobody just off the bat doesn't like you unless they just feel threatened by you. I imagine like pretty girls and stuff like that probably just are nervous around you because, you know, you occupy a space that I don't know. I've never been like an insanely, you know, hot girl or something. So I don't understand what it must be like to feel like you own this place where like doors get opened for you and drinks get bought for you. And it's just this place where you own the world. And then to have another equally, or maybe even, you know, hotter person walk into the room and what it's like to kind of lose the power. So my guess is the only people that wouldn't like you are just people that feel threatened by you. But do you not feel embraced, or like people are drawn to you and just want to sit down and talk with you forever?
Honestly, no. I think I have like a kind of like a standoffish type of resting persona that people don't really gravitate towards. Like, but at the same time, like I'm not one to like go out of my way to have conversations with people because I just want to, I guess. Like I very much keep to myself unless I'm really talked to. I mean, I guess that's why I don't really feel received. But at the same time, I'm kind of like an introvert in the sense that I don't really want to be. Like,
which is kind of the like annoying aspect of it all, because although you're on my podcast right now and here I am, you know, 130 some odd episodes into this thing. And then beyond that, like I have this band with several albums, and then I made like a film that I'm, you know, basically the star of. Like you would think that's a big attention whore, which I am, but I really value time away from that. And I value time when people aren't asking me things or paying attention to me or whatever. So I get the introversion, but I also can't help but think that your rise to softball glory couldn't have been 100% about the sport, because why would anybody work that hard to get that high up the chain without an understanding of the publicity and the celebrity and the, I don't know, the fame of it all?
That's a good question.
But prove me wrong. Tell me that you're really that like idealistic. You're like, nope, I just like softball.
Well, I feel like, yeah, you know what though? I feel like it really, I don't think I could like, I just really loved the sport. I loved getting to play with, it was like, for me, I guess it was like the team culture, the going at this as a family type of culture that I love to be a part of. And, you know, you're not playing for yourself. You're playing for the person next to you that's, you know, working their butt off and they're, you know, trying to do their, like the best that they can. And who are you if you're just sitting back and resting on your laurels and say, I'm amazing and I don't need to work hard. You know what I mean? There was a lot that went into being motivated to do all the things. Yeah, some of it has to do with individual success, just because it's a lot of times it is put on one person. You know, you're the only one up to bat. You're not up to bat with everybody else.
Right.
But at the same time, there's always that like team culture, that family type of culture that is so fun to be a part of, like so fun. And
so in a big way, you like disappeared into it.
Yeah.
You didn't go into it like Michael Jordan, where you're just like, I'm going to win this game. You went into it like, I'm a bulldog.
Yes.
And you can call me Alyssa DiCarlo if you want, but I'm just one, cog in this clock.
Yep. That's exactly right. Yep. It's just the way that, it's not only just, being on the team. Like, you're waking up at 7 a.m, sometimes 6 a.m, to go work out with all these people, to go sweat and maybe throw up and to, work your butt off and freaking die every morning, and then go, lift weights and get excited for each other when somebody lifts more than they ever have, or, somebody does whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you get genuinely excited for each other because of all the crap that you've been through. It's almost like they tear you down and you're just like at your breaking point. And then you come together as a team, and it's like, that's what like lifts you back up, is being part of the team. If I had to go through all those workouts by myself, I never would have made it. Never. But it's that person next to you that holds you accountable for what you're doing, and you feel motivated to do more, be better for the people around you and your coaches and everybody who's, relying on you, than, just being out there yourself and just doing what you do,
The
and I
irony being
love
that,
being
like,
part of that.
we had breakfast one time, and we were just talking about body types, I guess. And you were talking about, losing control of your own body type. And you made a comment about how you would just work hard and you would work out and you just make sure that that doesn't happen. And it just made me think, oh, you don't have a softball reason to work out hard anymore, but you still do.
Yes.
Which then begs the question, based on what you just said, why?
Why do I still work out? I guess because I don't want to gain weight. I've always played, I've been an athlete my whole life. I've constantly been active.
Yeah.
And then I have to go sit down all day, which I like what I do. It involves sitting. Like, I don't mind sitting all day, but then that comes with gaining weight. And I like to eat. And if I want to eat what I want to eat and still be at a weight that I feel comfortable being at, then I have to work out. That's just the way it is. I don't want to work out. I don't particularly like working out, but I'll do it.
Wow.
I guess I'm just accustomed to it, because I think my fear of being like uncomfortable and upset with the way that I feel is greater than my like desire to just lay around all day.
That's a good point. And I think, if you talk to anybody that, might be carrying more weight or fat than they're interested in carrying, I think if they were honest about it, what they would say is, I wish that I looked like all those pretty people on the TV and stuff like that, but I don't care enough to get up and go do something about it. I'm fine with this, in that it represents the amount of work I'm willing to put into it. Right. But, to admit that then would just, cause this whole community to sick them and try to like shame them into doing something about it, which doesn't matter and is important. I don't know. Hard left back into the softball stuff. The draft. I think I had it in my head that the draft is kind of like the Oscars, that it's a pay to play game where like you don't get put up to be drafted unless you invest in that. You're not just picked because you happen to be a collegiate athlete, but if I heard what you said correctly, it sounds like you weren't even aware that you were up for the draft until you were drafted, or you just didn't think you would be drafted until you were.
Well, it was like, so about, I want to say a month before the draft, Rachel Fico, who is our pitching coach at Georgia, and she played on the Bandits, the Chicago Bandits, the team that I ended up getting drafted to.
Okay.
She had asked me like, "Hey, are you interested in playing professional softball?" And I was like, "Yes, why?" And she was like,
but when you say yes, why? Was that the first time that thought even crossed your mind, or had you already started thinking in those terms?
No, I had always thought like, if I get the chance, I'm going to play professional softball. Like that was just always my train of thought. But I guess there was always that doubt in my mind, because it's really funny because so the day of the draft, I was so anxious and so nervous about the draft that I played the worst game I have ever played in the Georgia uniform. The worst game. I think I struck out 3 times, and every ball that got hit to me, I booted. Like I didn't catch a single ball. I'm not kidding. Like you should go back and watch this dang game. It was horrible. It was awful. And then like, it was like I got drafted. And so my family's there, Jess is there, and they're all like, and I'm running off the field and they're all holding signs up with like Chicago Bandits drafted number 1, like, or not number 1, first round. And Jess is like, Alyssa. And they're like yelling at me. And I'm just like pissed. I'm just pissed. I saw that I was drafted and I just like, I saw that I was drafted and I was just so angry. And honestly, during that whole game, I was like, they're not even going to want me. They're not even going to want me. I'm going to get drafted. Like, I'm not even going to get drafted. And if I do, it's going to be like in the 4th round or whatever, because this game is so horrible that why would anybody want me? Like I was so it was like a constant battle. And I was so worried and so concerned for nothing. But after obviously I was happy, but I was like more pissed about the game than if I would have played well that game, I could have let myself be happy about being drafted. But since I played like crap, I was just this back and forth. Like, I don't even know why they drafted me. Like, I'm just so bad.
So yeah. You said something a minute ago that as you continued your thought went a different direction than my brain went with the way you started the thought. And so I'm going to ask you the question about where my brain went. From the time that I picked up the guitar and got decent at it after a few years, like I started getting in bands. And initially when you're in a band, it's just exciting to be in a band and you don't know that you suck because you're just playing your little heart out. And I don't know. It sounds like in your head it's supposed to sound. You're like, yeah, this is what we sound like. Cool. And then, a decade down the road, it's a whole different game. And the quality of equipment has increased, the quality of understanding production in the studio and on stage, because weirdly on stage doesn't just happen. There's a lot of production value, lighting and stuff that goes into like presenting a band and its music. To the point that now I'm very choosy about the projects that I'm in, because I know it's only going to be fun if I'm playing with people of a similar skill and experience level, because we're going to be able to do something different and better with all those tools versus if I just jumped in a band with a bunch of 16-year-olds. I'm curious if softball functioned in the same way, in the sense that from high school to college, you noticed a shift in talent and skill, and it made you like want to be better. And then from college to pro, you noticed a shift in skill, and it made you want to be better. And if that increased your enjoyment of playing the sport to the point that right now you couldn't go join a, community league and play, because it would just be a lot of half-ass and you can't really deal with that.
That's exactly right. Playing with the people that I got to play with, I would never be able to go play some like, adult softball league. It would I can't even go play slow pitch. Like, I'm so hard on myself. People are like Jess and I in Arizona, we went to go play slow pitch, and she's freaking ridiculous. She's so good. And I just sucked. And I was like so mad after we got done with the game. And because Jess knows that I'm really hard on myself. She's known me my whole college career. But, we started dating before my senior year. So she was at every game, heard everything I had to say about everything, my whole senior year. So she knows how hard on myself I am. So it's kind of just expected. But everybody else, they were like, just have fun. And I just couldn't. I just couldn't. Nobody was taking it seriously. Yeah. And it was just fun, like jogging around. And even Jess was the same way. On her first hit, she motored around the bases and slid into third. And I'm all cheering her on and stuff. And everybody's like, oh, wow. We're freaking D1 athletes. You can't turn it off.
The Super Bowl. Chill out.
Yeah. I was all, because I'm all into it too. I'm like, yeah, it was just, it's just so funny to see us two, because we're so, like you said, we played with like the best of the best. We couldn't function just being like, yeah, this is just going through the motions. Like, it wasn't fun. I didn't like it. I could never do it again. I don't even want to do it.
So I guess maybe connected to that thought, I wouldn't say that I'm frustrated with you, or I wouldn't say that I judge you, but having become aware of you in my life in the last 5 months, I've thought a lot about what your experience has been like, because in connection to my experience, it would be the same as if I started a band at 20 and we wrote a good album and we got signed and we got put on the road. And that's the pinnacle. Like, a musician really doesn't get bigger than just working, just being out there and having music that people care about and playing to, I don't know, even just theaters and clubs of a couple thousand people just, pumping their fist and loving what you do. And I guess I've listened to enough interviews and stuff that I understand the perspective of getting burned out over 20 years or something of doing that. But I wonder if you can indulge me and kind of walk me through what it was like to get to the top and eventually just realize that you're kind of done. You're over it.
Yeah. So it's just, pro softball was awesome. I loved it. I loved playing with the people that I got to play with. They were, at a completely new level. They were awesome. So good. Best of the best that I've ever played with. But it was with that came a whole nother set of expectations for me. And I played absolutely horrible the first, couple weeks of pro ball.
Is that what you're saying? Or is that what the news said? How did the media describe your first year?
It wasn't publicized really. It was we didn't really play on TV. I don't even think we played on TV at all, but
newspapers, nothing. Nobody was looking at the rookie and picking at you or critiquing you.
No, nobody had anything to say about it, but I just felt like I didn't want to sit around and wait all year for next summer and do nothing and just train and train and train for something that I felt wasn't the same feeling as being on a college softball team, getting to train with your teammates all year. And like I said, there's that culture, that family culture, that team culture, that, waking up together at 7 a.m., busting your butt together, and then getting to play. waiting all year and training all year, practicing every single day to play in come February and start the season together. There wasn't that family like team
because
culture.
not everybody's from Chicago. Like you show up for the season and then you bomb
and
off
then you
go
leave.
home. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And so it was just like, it was just completely different. And I wouldn't say that it's bad. I mean, it was fun. It was great, but it was just different. And I didn't feel like I wanted to sit around and train all year by myself. And it wasn't as fun as college softball was. I'm just going to be like completely honest.
It almost
For me,
sounds
it wasn't
like
as fun.
that piece of you that wouldn't have been able to play softball if it was an individual sport, if it was all this attention on you and not just you as part of a group, the pros is. I mean, not to say that people didn't have a team mentality, but you're really just showing up for yourself and your own relationship to this thing. And because that's not why you were in it, it became a different sport. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure everybody that plays in the pros feels the same way that I do, that like, you know, it's still a team culture. You're still part of a team. It's still all the same team, you know, like we're going at this together, but it's not the same. There's a little bit more individual pieces sprinkled in than like in college softball. It's just different. And I wish I could explain it a little bit better, but that's just, it was
a perfect explanation of it. And to the point that I empathize, rather than sitting here and just being like, you had it all, Liz. Why'd you walk away? Part of being in a band is that you 4 or 5 guys are in that van or in that bus or on that plane, and you 4 or 5 guys are on that stage. And unless, you know, I don't know, a band gets on stage and starts swinging or something, like it's your world. And because you own that, it's family and it's blood and there's an intimacy there, even in playing music. I tell people all the time that playing music is as close as you'll come to having sex without having sex. And it sounds weird, but there's such an intense intimacy in syncing up and everybody doing the same thing in different ways, in a drummer playing something that locks up with what you're doing, to the point that like there's a very real attraction. There's a very real, like, bands that work are in love with each other because there's this documentary called Sound City, and the singer of Queens of the Stone Age is talking about feel, and he's like, feel is, you know, it's what a person looks like. It's how their heart beats. And he's like, somebody with good feel, you just see how much more of a beautiful person they are. And it's that, like, it's why I can't play with certain people anymore, because it would be like making out with somebody that you're not into.
Right. Yeah.
It would just be pointless. And I want to feel that feeling. I want to feel that heroin feeling of creating music and stuff like that. All of that being said, with your love of softball and your disenchantment with a portion of pro ball that caused you to decide to leave, Annie Lockwood's a friend of mine, and in that I stay in touch with her. You know, she coaches and she recruits for a university, and she doesn't play that I'm aware of, but is still sort of associated with it. I mean, is it really just about playing the game for you, or is there some part of you that's thought about just a way of being associated with it that might at least feel fun, but something you might enjoy just being associated with it still?
You know, I don't know why I don't, you know, because when I first like got to college and I was playing it, I thought like, well, I don't ever want to stop. And so I'm just going to be a coach. Like, that's what I'm going to do. But as I got older and, you know, the end of my career is approaching, I was just kind of like, I think some of it is attributed to my kind of like lack of self-confidence, like in like what I believe is right and wrong.
Oh,
that I just didn't feel like I had enough confidence in what I knew to be able to teach it. And like anybody could tell me, like Coach Lou tells me all the time, like, you'd be a great coach. But I just don't have that, like, I don't know, like doing lessons. I like to work with the kids, but it was not like it didn't I didn't feel satisfied.
Yeah,
If that
it
makes
doesn't
sense.
at all have the same feeling of
Right.
being in the big game with a whole bunch of heavy hitters, a whole bunch of super talented people. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know what it was. It just is what it wasn't like. I could, if I wanted to right now, I could go do lessons. If I wanted to, I could go on the weekends. I have plenty of time. You know, like I'm in Tampa where there's tons of softball players, I'm sure. And I could go and find Jess knows people out here with cages and stuff like that. I could go find a cage, go give lessons, but like, I just don't want to. I don't have that. Like, I don't know if I'm even confident when to know anymore. It's so weird to think about it now, but it's like that kind of like lacking of confidence that kind of makes me shy away from being a coach. I mean, Jess has wanted to put on camps. Like when we were in Georgia, she was like, let's put on a camp. Like, come on, let's do like, that'd be so fun. And I was like, I just don't want to. I don't know why. Like, it just makes me anxious coaching people. Like, I think the reason why I enjoyed coaching at Georgia, because I was a student coach there for the fall of my 5th year, right before I graduated. And I liked to coach there because I knew exactly I was there for 4 years.
You knew their program. Yeah.
I know the program by like the back of my hand. I'm like familiar with everything that goes on. I was confident in what I knew, and I knew what coach was thinking. Like I knew what Tony was thinking. I was able to kind of, I don't know, work with all of them. And I knew that I wasn't going against what the coaches wanted. And I was also saying what I thought was right. But if I go coach in another program now, I might not be.
You're in charge. It's your curriculum. And based on what you said about your confidence, like you don't believe strongly enough in the way that you see the sport to impart that to another athlete confidently.
Right.
Wow.
Somebody that I don't know, like I can't just look at somebody and their swing and be like, and be able to confidently say, okay, this is what you need to do.
Okay, but confidence out of the way, you do see something, don't you? Like when you see somebody else's stance and all that, like you can see what needs to happen. And
I can. But I've played with so many people who have said like, you know, what they're saying, it's messing me up. Like I was fine. And then they told me to do something and now I'm screwed up. Like that's the last thing that I want to do. And I know that all coaches have good intentions and they want to help you. But then there's like that failure associated with coaching that like people really think like they're screwing me up. Like, why you don't talk? Like, you know what I mean? Like I've heard so many people talk like that. So I just like, I think that's what steered me away.
So you have a complicated relationship with consequences?
I guess.
It's like the fallout of your decisions and the fact that that's on you and people can criticize you or question you about it. Like you're not a fan of that.
Yes.
I think I feel the exact same way. And I'm trying to sit here and figure out like, well, why do I think I guess if I really analyzed my own success, I'm using a lot of air quotes, but it's only just because I would love to have way more success than what I've actually experienced. But I almost feel like maybe my own success comes down to like my heroes, the people that I choose to admire. I choose to admire like, I don't know, the dropouts or like Kevin Smith. I mean, outside of the fact that he's just a funny guy, I think I like the fact that he created something from nothing.
Yeah.
He like literally just started shooting a movie and over the course of the movie applied for a bunch of credit cards that he used to pay for the movie. And then, I don't know, I feel like it would be ballsy to submit your movie to a film festival, but he did, one of the biggest ones, Sundance, and then, gets picked up and, here we are 20, 30 years later and a career that is definitely open to criticism. A lot of people think that he's a horrible filmmaker. However, he does have a very specific talent. Like he's very good at dialogue. He's very good at drama and relationships, but he's also good at comedy and different things like that. But like Kevin leans into Kevin. Kevin knows what Kevin's good at. Kevin knows what people want out of Kevin, which is why he showed up to all those like college Q&As for years and made a bunch of money, but also just had like fun answering people's questions about movies. That he's like, if this is the place people care about it, then I'll come here to let people care about it. I guess it's caused me to, when I put out like a documentary on YouTube, and to date it's gotten like 200 something views, and it would be easy for me to look at that and just be like, wow, yeah, I don't do good work. That's enough, as much failure as you can possibly fathom. But at the same time, the subject matter of the documentary, like me retracing the steps of my Mormon missionary service in Pennsylvania, how many people are really going to give a crap about that to sit down and watch a 4-hour documentary about it? Not that many. So, and on top of that, it was shot on like an iPod, and like the whole thing was never me being like, watch me now be a famous filmmaker. It was, let's see if I can make a film. And then I did, even to the point that if you watch it, there's stuff in it that I'm only doing because that's what films do. Like there's title cards at the beginning of like Blayrock Films presents, and like I only do that because all the movies I watch do that. And then credits at the end. There was no credits. Nobody was involved. It was me, and there was a few interviews, and like there was nobody to credit. So I just had to like invent credits just to be like, well, at least it's a movie now. I guess my point is, I wonder if you ever found people along the way, and maybe the answer to this question comes down to the team mentality, and that you always sort of felt on the same level with people and never like put people on pedestals and gave them that esteem. Like, did you find heroes along the way that influenced the way that you behaved, or did you just kind of meld into teams?
I think I'm very much a like I look up to people. Yeah, like you said, like I look up to people, and like the older people that I played with, like people that I think are awesome in the softball world. It was never above me to like fangirl when I thought that this person was awesome. That like I want to do that. How does she do that? It was never above me to look at somebody and be like, she's got things that I want, and I'm going to work hard to achieve that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I guess, yeah, I don't know.
Is that how you got as far as you did, by sort of mentally and emotionally kind of riding the coattails of people that were a little farther down the road than you? Or did you always sort of have your own game plan, and your heroes didn't really factor in to your journey? They were just people that you admired from a distance. Like, do you have posters on your walls, or did you have posters on your walls? Like, did you just like vision board your life and make it this whole thing?
No, I didn't. I think they were just people that I admired from afar. Like I wouldn't I wouldn't like, I just wanted to do what they had done. I just wanted to be who they had be who they were. Like it was never, I didn't really like gear my experiences towards theirs, I guess, or like do what they have done. But I don't know how to say it. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to be something like, be as successful as they were, I guess.
Was there certain parts in your rise again to like the celebrity end of it that validated and fulfilled that, or was it 100% your performance on the field?
It was 100% performance on the field.
Wow. But I mean, was the whole photo shoots and all that stuff just an inconvenience for you? Was there any enjoyment in it? Like what?
No, there wasn't. I enjoyed it. I love doing those things, like getting to do like the little, media stuff and posting and all that stuff. Like it was fun. It was really fun. But if, like after the game, I had to come to terms with, like, here's an example. I had to come to terms with the fact that it doesn't matter how bad I did. these kids want my autograph. And it was like, for me, I was like, how could they want to ask me for my autograph after I just went out there and laid an egg? But I had, like, that was one of the things I came to terms with, that like I enjoyed interacting with people after the game, no matter how bad I did, because I understood that after being in the program for, a year, after seeing, the kids that want your autograph, I always just thought that it was like they wanted the best player's autograph if you did well that game. I like
rather than the truth, which is something about watching you play grabbed them.
Yeah.
And they like you.
Right.
And they showed up to this game because they wanted to see what you are doing.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't great, even if you didn't win the game, even if you barely contributed to the game, they're still like fangirling out on you for whatever reason.
Right. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So it was, I mean, that part was fun. Like, I loved interacting with the kids, doing all the media and stuff like that. I did enjoy that. It wasn't like it was, like, annoying. Like, that was never the case. I always like to give back and, talk to kids about, or just talk to them after the game or whatever, but,
do you miss it, or are you kind of enjoying your being anonymous again?
Oh, I miss it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely miss it a lot. But I miss college softball a ton. It was just different. There's nothing like it. Especially being at Georgia. It was just, there's absolutely no experience like my experience in college. So.
I have a very dark question to ask you. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to ask it that isn't as dark, but so when I was probably like 26 or 27, I've been married for a couple of years and it wasn't going well. And I was kind of in and out of bands and I was in and out of jobs. It was a mess. I just wanted to be a professional musician. And the truth is I just wasn't doing what it takes to make that happen, because now I'd gotten married. So I had like this, woman and this family to tend to. And so I was just trapped. I was just handcuffed in my own life. I was still joining bands and spending money on equipment that we didn't have. And just, it was a nightmare. But at some point, the stress of my life culminated in an onstage panic attack, like an hour into a Foo Fighters set that I was fronting this Foo Fighters tribute band. And it started basically a 6-month process of me realizing that I can't do this anymore. That I had to like give up music because I couldn't perform anymore. Like, just halfway through a show, I just have this like choke gag reflex thing. And you can't really sing when you're gagging like that. So I had to like give up my dream. And I mean, this was post-divorce that I actually gave it up. So not only did I not have like a wife or something to live for, I had to like give up my dream. And I ended up,
right.
Sort of after, I guess, sort of officially becoming suicidal, in the sense that like I started just really thinking about that and being like, there's just really nothing left to live for. So why keep breathing? Why keep paying bills? Why do this? I eventually, in some degree of self-care, reposited that dream to like, okay, if I can't perform anymore, why don't I go to school to be a filmmaker? Because at least then I could still make art and life would have some sort of purpose. And then that just sort of curved around to me like meeting this girl that changed my life. And then she like got me back into music and got me back up on stage until now, I'm like a fully functioning musician again. But I guess my point is, since I went through a period at, 26, 27, where my dream ended, or I had to make a decision to walk away from it, what was that like for you to be like, to shut it down, to be like, okay, this is over. And now I've got to completely change my life. And,
it's a really interesting question. It's kind of hard to answer because college softball was always going to come to an end. It was never like, it was never my decision. It's 4 years. That's all you got.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess knowing that and being conscious of that, especially as a female, it's never going to be the MLB. There was never any dreams to be a softball player for my whole life. If that makes sense. I always
out of curiosity,
knew that
were you already aware at that age of the life of a professional softball player? You knew like the money that was involved. You knew what that looked like.
Yeah, I didn't even know that there was a professional league until I got to college. Yeah,
no kidding.
I just, it was always kind of like that softball in college, and that's it.
Yeah.
That, so it was like, I guess you could say like I was just kind of conditioned my whole life to just know that softball was coming to an end and that I was going to have to do something else. And it's just, I mean, it's crappy. I wish I could play softball for my whole life, but like I said, college softball was always going to come to an end for me. So when it did, it was like, it was sad, but it's like, here's where it's my time. Everybody ends their softball career at some point, whatever. Like for me, it was, I got to play professional softball, but like lots don't. So I actually didn't go through that, like, what do I do type of, I mean, I did. I went home and I was like, okay, now I have to start working. But I think I've found other things that I'm passionate about. So I don't think that I've kind of hit that wall yet where I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do? Like, I really like to program. I really like to program. So like I invest a lot of time into programming. Like I come home every day from work and I watch videos and I constantly, like, to the point where I'd rather sit in bed and program than even work out. Like I just love it. So I guess I have found something else that I'm like investing my time in to where I feel like I'm getting better at something and I'm still doing something, and I know where I want to go. So I haven't felt that kind of like, what am I doing in my life feeling. But it's funny that you say that, because Jess felt exactly what you're talking about after she coached. She was a volunteer coach and didn't like it. It just wasn't what she expected, because she wanted to be a coach. She went and, went out on a limb, and what's that saying? Went on a limb, whatever. She coached, she volunteered, paid her own way, living for no money, and then didn't like it. And so it's like her whole dream is like, what do I do? So she went through a period of like extreme anxiety to the point where like she was in the hospital a few times just because of that feeling that you're talking about. And luckily I have not experienced that, but it is, I'm sure lots of softball players have gone through that. Luckily I just have found something that I'm passionate about, that I like to do. And I kind of have a path that I want to go down.
That's beautiful. That's annoyingly beautiful. I love that you're, I guess, as healthy as you are.
Well, thanks.
Because I don't have a healthy enough perspective about the things that I want to do to, I guess, be able to plan around changes. It's almost like I had the attitude that you're supposed to have to be a professional musician, where there was no plan B. But I'm one of the examples of what happens when it doesn't happen and you have no plan B. It means you flounder. You flounder in life. You get bullshit entry-level job after bullshit entry-level job. You're in relationship after relationship. You're aimless, because the one thing you want to do is never going to happen. And it's a really dark kind of pseudo life. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe I'm also one of those weird examples of how you survive that. How do you survive it when it doesn't happen? And how do you not let that break your will to just do it anyway? How can I just make albums, make movies, make a podcast, just create, do stuff, and never make a dime or a important, a large, I don't know, ego filling dime off of doing it. But all that being said, maybe just to spend maybe the last few moments I have here with you talking about my observations of you as an entertainer. do you like, have you ever in growing up and watching TV or just whatever other types of entertainment you were absorbing, radio hosts, DJs, whatever, like, do you find yourself having fandom within that art? Do you have like favorite actors, actresses? Do you have favorite comedians? Do you have people that just get you all jazzed up?
I really don't, which is, I guess, because I don't know, actually. I used to, I guess.
Because you must have learned your personality from somewhere. Like, you're different than your sister. I don't know your parents yet, but I get the feeling like you're different from them. You learned it from somewhere.
I don't know. I'm kind of like my dad. I guess you'll see.
Are you?
But my dad's kind of weird like I am, but he's also kind of
deadpan.
What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, like Gina. She's just kind of like serious. I don't know.
She is fun to squeeze emotions out of. Yeah, for sure.
She's very serious all the time. Like when I show emotion, she's like, "You're weird."
The same face she gives me. No, but she's sweet. She's
but she just doesn't do it. So like I guess my mom and dad, I have like a mixture of like, my mom will be able to show the emotions. My dad is more serious, but also goofy. So I guess maybe I got a little mixture from there, but I never really, I guess I love to watch Grey's Anatomy, but I love those actors and actresses, but I never looked at an actor, actress, musician, anybody in the film world, I guess, is like somebody that like, wow, like they're so awesome. I want to be like that. I never got into it. Yeah. Or comedian or anything like that.
Have you thought much since that conversation we had where I was like, hey, you should think about doing this? Have you looked at yourself with sort of an analytical, critical eye and been like, what? I mean, am I funny? Do I even do all these things?
I've thought about that. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I'm funny. I guess I can see because I have these like facial expressions that people think are funny sometimes, but
they are.
I don't know. I just don't think I'm funny. I don't know.
I think that's the thing about you. You're incredibly expressive, which, but it's beyond that because people can be expressive and not interesting. You're expressive.
Yeah.
You're very careful about where you place it. And it is funny and it's engaging and it's witty. And I don't know. It's going to bother me for a long time what I see in you and that it's probably never going to be used or go anywhere.
Well, when you figure it out, let me know.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I have no idea. That's for sure.
What I'm happy about what we accomplished here is I think anybody that, listens to podcasts and might just for giggles look your name up one day and then find your name on this podcast and listen to it is I'm gathering no reporter, interviewer, during those past days with you has gotten this deep with you or just really had like a hearty conversation with you. So it's fun to sort of introduce you to your fans in like a different way.
Yeah. I don't think, I've never had, it's always been just kind of like surface level softball. That's it. So
now, that being said, I was trying so hard. I like surprising people. I like when people show up to something that I'm doing and they walk away being like, I had no idea that was going to happen. That's also why I like being a musician because most of the time, like, I think I can pull something out of my hat that they're just like, whoa. And then that's like a dopamine thing for me. But I tried to get Annie on this with us as like a surprise for you. Oh boy, I tried. She's actually in Arizona right now. She happens to be coaching a softball game right now. So she just,
oh my gosh.
But, in the middle of me geeking out about the possibility of that happening, I also thought that with both of you being like semi-retired softball stars, like it would be really interesting to like, I mean, I guess, with COVID and I don't know, sports aren't really active right now, but it would be interesting to get you two involved in something together, some kind of sports show, specifically because you both
sports show
something. Yeah, I don't know. That was just where my crazy brain was going, but
that's funny. Oh gosh,
I want that to happen. And I'm probably still going to try to get you two on like a podcast together just to, I don't know, compare stories. Just so I could sit back and just listen to you like talk shop.
That would be
stuff.
fun. That'd be really fun.
I'm working on it. We'll see how that works out. But
okay.
Thanks for doing the show, Alyssa. This is super fun.
It was fun. You always make me think at a way deeper level than I ever think.
Yeah, imagine me being your boyfriend. Yeah, it's the worst. Like she hates it. She hates it every single day. Loves me, hates it.
Does she? That's hilarious.
She does.
Honestly,
she loves
though,
me a lot, but I think I'm exhausting. She's just like, can we go to bed now? I don't know what's happening.
Gosh. That's funny. I can see that though, because Gina, you got to really
a lot.
get it out of her.
Yes.
She doesn't,
And weirdly, I have too much fun doing that. So she's the perfect like candidate for me. I just get to pull on the string forever and just see what else comes out. It's fun though.
Oh man.
She's great. Well, that's it, man. Thanks again and stuff.
All right. Yeah. I had fun.
Me too.